Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this March 27th, 2017 afternoon. And, Chris, we are at the end of March, and going to be moving into April, which is pretty crazy because I still feel like we just, New Year's was just here, and now we're already into the heart of the contest season. We had a big show this past weekend, the Karina Nascimento show, which has turned into quite an event. We'll talk about that in a little bit. In more relevant news, we moved in. We did a little move. We moved again. You know how you say you're never going to move? Well, I moved again.
Yeah.
And people might be wondering what I'm talking about. Well, we on my property we have a building, and it was a pretty big building. It's 1,600 square feet up and down. Well, it's a tall building. So I built 2 stories into it. I built 2 floors on it and put in our offices there for the RxMuscle studios, the Species Nutrition office, and of course downstairs is a little bit of my snake collection. And so we moved. We had 2 big pods. You saw them when you came to my house on my property. That was storing all the office furniture and all the studio stuff, and that's why we've really been operating out of a very, very makeshift little office the past 6 months that it took to build this thing out. And so we moved I basically found the movers that actually moved me down here, and some of the guys were local, because I guess what happens is people move from New York down to Florida, and then when they get to Florida, they have a crew down here that moves all the stuff out of the moving truck into people's houses. So I had kept the guy's number, and I called him up, and I said, look, I need help. So he sent 2 guys over, and they moved everything in the pod. Actually, it was more than just what was in the 2 pods. It was stuff in my house, too, and it was a million bins and boxes, and it took them probably about 5 hours to move everything into that building. And the funny thing is that I am exhausted, and I did absolutely nothing. I didn't move. Well, I moved like a couple plants, fake plants, but just from walking up and down the stairs and just supervising everything, I feel like I did a whole day's work.
Well, you did. You did technically do a whole day's work.
But isn't that must be the true definition of getting old? Because I'm telling you, I was like, the back of my knee was killing me. Like, you would think that I was lifting, and I lifted a couple boxes, but you would think that I was doing all the moving. I'm just thinking, can you imagine if I actually had to do the moving? How dead I would be?
You'd be hospitalized.
Yeah. It's a sad statement, but it's the truth.
No, it is. Listen, I went snow tubing. I think I mentioned that, or after we did the radio show last week or whatever.
Right.
And I took the family snow tubing. I think I sent you
You sent me a very good video of it. Yeah, it looked like you were on one of those water rides, like in Florida, except it was on snow.
And when we got off, I mean, listen, Dave, you don't even climb the mountain. You get on an elevator.
Well, that's convenient.
You get on an escalator, and I was so beat after. We went to eat, and I was thinking, imagine if I actually skied or something.
What the question I have is that what do they charge for something like that?
They charge $20 a person for 2 hours.
Oh my God! So it was $100 a day for you.
When you have kids, everything is $100. When you have 3 kids, someone said to me, everything, movies, $100. Because you go to the movie, right? You get movie tickets for 3 kids, 2 adults, and you get popcorn and drinks. It's $120.
I'm laughing, but it's probably the truth. I'm actually lucky now that my son can't really understand movies yet. But you're right. You have to take him to do things when mine is still at the age where he doesn't. You can give him a plastic container and he's happy to play with it. But
yeah. When I was little, my parents said, get out of the house, and I'd get out of the house. There was we didn't have nothing, nothing to, there was no electronics. We didn't have any money to go to movies or anything. We never went to a movie.
No entertainment. I don't think I remember. I think the only movie my parents ever took me to, and this was before my sister she must have been around. They took me to Jaws. I remember that. And I was scared out of my mind, but I loved it. But that, in all the history of what I could think back to, that's the only movie I ever remember going to with my parents, although I'm sure I went to others. But Jaws, they took me to. And I never remember going to a movie with my sister. So she must have been off limits, to the movie theater. She probably couldn't focus. And my grandfather, my father's father, who very rarely did anything individually with me. The only thing he ever did individually with me, because there was so many grandkids and stuff like that, he was older, was we went to see King Kong. So I went to see King Kong, the one with, not the original, but it was the one with Jessica Lange, and then Jaws with my parents. So I guess I better get used to it. I told him that. That's why I said we can't have like 3 kids. It's going to be too expensive.
Yeah, then you get into like you get into like me saying like, I wonder how much it costs to live in like Nicaragua or Costa Rica when you see those.
Nicaragua.
Mexico. I'll go join Romano down in
Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, someplace where it's cheap.
Before we get to all the news, there was some sad news in the bodybuilding world. We say this way too much, unfortunately, but I guess someone dies every day anyway. But Jackie Paisley, who's someone she passed, and no one really has the details yet. I saw there was a post someone put on her Facebook page, and I know Dave Lieberman kind of recopied it. And she was one of the pioneer women bodybuilders back in the day. I know she competed with Laura. I actually had her on the Heavy Muscle radio show on, I believe it was December of 2012. I'll repost that link. But very sad news. What was your interaction with her? I know you knew her, right?
Yeah, she was. I knew her because she was competing against Laura. Like Dexter, I end up hating people for no reason when they're good bodybuilders. She she used to come around Gold's Gym in Venice, even though she didn't live there. She was there for the she'd come down there and train and stuff. So my only real interaction with her was somewhere I was out in California and Laura was out there, and she pulled Laura aside and said that she was having health issues. That was way back when, and that she wasn't going to compete anymore. And I think they were autoimmune something like that,
Right.
This could be like 1991, 1992, somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. And she was like a violinist. She was the exact opposite of what you would stereotype as a quote female bodybuilder. She was I think she had a degree in arts or arts and business. And, she was really educated. Not that female bodybuilders aren't educated, but she was a cellist or violinist, and this was just like a hobby of hers that she caught the bug, and like it does a lot of people, bodybuilding sucked her in terms of her passion for it.
Yeah,
and that's really it. She kind of like was like came onto the scene really heavy, really quick, really good bodybuilder, great conditioning, fabulous legs, and then she had those some type of health issues that she just decided this is not good for me to continue, or I can't continue because of my health issues.
Yeah, the funny thing was she would have been a good women's physique pro because she had that was like perfect physique. I don't think she was too big. She had good balance to her body. She wasn't one of the huge girls, but she had good size on her.
Yeah, she did. She had she had enough size. That's what they needed at that time in female bodybuilding,
it's interesting. I'm looking at the radio show I did with her. I'm going to read you the description of the show because you'll get a kick out of it. And it was from the Heavy Muscle Radio 12/3/12. So that's December 3rd, 2012. I'm going to read the description of the show. Dave and Chris discuss the upcoming IFBB Masters Mr. Olympia 1 week out from the contest. Who will win? Dexter, Freeman, Dennis James?
That was
a great show, right?
That was a show for the dude. That was a show that top 5 would smoke. Why don't you get Johnny to post up the top 6 or top 10 from that show? They gave away $100,000, so people came and checked.
Or they pretended to give away $100,000, but yeah.
Well,
I don't think Jarker ever gave it out to anyone.
Anyways, the lineup was off.
It was really good. That was the show that I got choked out. Remember? By you know who outside the theater.
Like what was that? Who's that actress? That's no. Who? What
Angelina Jolie.
No. What movie was the one with?
With Michael Douglas.
Yeah,
Fatal Attraction. Yeah.
Fatal Attraction. It was a scene from Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Dave had a knee in a brace.
That's right. I was nursing my torn quad too. Still.
Well, because somebody came up and attacked you, and I thought they were going to start kicking at the knee.
Everyone was coming to my rescue.
That seemed like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That show, right?
Yeah. Here's the rest of the description of the show. Who's being promoted at RxMuscle? Question mark. What's the future hold for the RxMuscle website? IFBB Women's Pro Bodybuilder Jackie Paisley talks about the old days of competing with women's bodybuilding when women's bodybuilding was fresh and new. Also find out how she's overcome her recent health issues. Oh, so you're right. There was health issues. I don't even remember the interview. It's so long ago. Also, IFBB Masters Olympia promoter Jarka Lori stops by to talk about her enormous event coming up this weekend in Miami, Florida. Jarka, who also disowned us, who was like my biggest fan, and then she got mad at me for posting the Superstar Seminar, which she claimed she was going to live stream, which she never did. And she never paid all the athletes for prize money, so she obviously they pulled her promoting privileges away from her. But she was mad. She hates us. She hated me. The funny thing is that I should go back and find that old footage because no one ever posted it, and because I took it down after she got all upset. It was like Rich Gaspari telling great stories, Ronnie Coleman, Flex Wheeler. It was. I got to go back and find. I know I have it someplace. I don't even think I edited all the segments, but I bet I can go back and find the ones that I.
They had after the show. They had a sit down dinner that was just off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she had a wedding she threw there, but it was like a wedding.
Were you with me there when was it me and you or me and Troy where they dropped us off at the hotel and you and I went into the hotel and it was the wrong hotel?
Yeah. That was us. That was me.
We took a cab ride back to the hotel. And the hotels were like touching each other right on the beach. So me and you got dropped off incorrectly by the cab driver at the hotel next to where we had to be. And I'm like, here's me, so tired. How did they actually move the elevators? Because the lobby looked exactly the same. Everything looked the same. And then we realized, we're in the wrong hotel.
Yeah. And the last this is when I used to do big radio descriptions. The last thing about the radio was also new editor-in-chief Aaron Chewbacca Singerman delivers his weekly Ask Dave and Stump the Jumbo segments. So that was
a lot of drama.
A lot of old times. That was a big radio show. That was a lot of happening in that radio show. So if you guys, I posted it on the forum. If anyone wants to go listen to the Jackie Paisley show, I should go listen. I haven't re-listened to it yet, but it's probably really funny because sometimes I listen to the old shows that we did and I laugh my ass off. I'm just like, we were so crazy. It was just like nutty.
Yeah.
Much more frantic than it is now.
Well, because I think what added to the franticness is the level of traveling that
every weekend, right? Exactly. Yeah.
It was like people. It's it just it was. Someone was just asking me about. I think it was Jose about a show. I said, "Oh, that's a show I helped so and so, so and so, and so and so." It was in Dallas, and I was like, "God, I used to like, Dave would be like, can you go to Dallas? Yeah, I'll be in Dallas. You're going to go here? Chicago? Yeah, I'll go to Chicago. You're going to be here? Yeah, sure, I'll go."
The good old days of traveling, when it was fresh and new. So I moved into this new warehouse, but I haven't really moved in. Like we're not officially operating out of there yet, but like we're closer, And so we went out to eat last night, Golden Corral. Imagine that.
Yeah, the picture.
And when we get back, we're like, let's go over to I knew there was a mistake to do it. She's like, let's go over there and see what's up there. So we go up there, and there's like 400 like tubs, these big, Tupperware tubs of like, where we have all the stuff stored in, computers and this. And I'm like, all right, let's just start. We'll unload a few of them, And of course, it became like we were there for like 3 hours unloading. We still didn't get them all done, but we got a lot done. We was setting up coffee. I'm like, oh, here's this thing that I've been looking for 6 months, and here's the garbage pails, and here's the, because I knew this stuff was in there. I just didn't know where anything was. We've been, I sell raw cacao powder on my website, and those things were missing for 6 months. I knew they were in that pod someplace. They were in with like the coffee maker. Why that bag happened to be thrown in there, I don't know. Because
you didn't find the missing snake, did you?
No, I wish I would have. That would have been great. Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I was going through that pod. Should have need that. It was an expensive snake too. I told that story to someone, to one of these snake breeders, and he's like, That snake was good. I said, that's the snake, yeah, because it was a good one. What was it? It was a zebra, albino, sunglow, carpet python. Now, when you have all those adjectives added in, every adjective adds about $500 or $750 to the cost, the worth of the snake. So it was an expensive snake, to say the least. But I'm still hoping that one day he'll come home, but it's probably unlikely. So we moved in there, and now the basically the onus is on Johnny to set the studio up. Like I'm trying to give him creative freedom here to make it his own type of thing, and let's make something cool here. He was at the Karina Nascimento show this past weekend, but he drove down there. But he's got a lot to do in the studio once he starts setting up. I put a couple things in there, I put a couch in there, and I put because we have so much overflow, I didn't know what to put in there. I said, look, we got to set this thing up the right way. And so that's exciting. So I'm hoping probably in another week or so to be officially working out of that new studio, which would be great because it's on my property, obviously. Mm-hmm. That's the goal always. My son is walking now. He was walking a few steps, here and there, and then now he seems to be walking, full time almost. He's still, he'll drop to his knees once in a while. But you told me a funny story about when your kids started walking.
Yeah, I tell you, my wife used to go to get her to college to get her master's degree, and she'd tell me like wives do in a stern, lecturing way, don't go on your phone, don't go on the computer. Make sure you watch these guys. And they were like, I don't know what they were like, 2 and 1 or 2 and 3. They could both get around.
Yeah.
And of course, she's gone for hours. You can't keep your eyeballs. Men can't keep their eyeballs on kids that long. We just get too bored. Period. Right?
Don't tell my wife that. No. Yeah.
No, we can't. It's a public service announcement. It's a fact. And I started fiddling around, probably texting you or who knows, Cedric or someone, and get going, and then they were right there. I had my feet propped up on the table, and they were right there. And then I couldn't find them, and I'm like, oh, they got to be right here somewhere. And I'm walking around on speakerphone. I'm like, look left, look right, look up, look down. I'm like, where are they? So I start screaming for them, yelling for them.
Now you're getting panicky, yeah.
Oh, and then I do that. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because now I'm worried that they're going to get hurt somewhere, go downstairs. Sure. The fireplace is blasting, the real wood fireplace.
Oh, my God.
And I'm screaming for them, and I'm screaming, and now I'm getting into a panic. And of course, when you get into a panic, you can't think.
Yeah.
So you just scream even louder.
Right.
And then finally I found them underneath this built-in desk in the kitchen, and they were hiding in there, and I was mad at them for nothing.
Now you're yelling at them, get out of there, what are you doing in there?
Yeah, I told you guys, they just want to go out and explore, but I couldn't find them. And another time my wife was at school, and I was watching them, and I'm doing a million things at once, and then I have an emergency with a building, and I completely forgot about them. I get in the car and I drive off, and I drive 100 yards down the road, and I slam on the brakes, holy smokes. Holy smokes. So I fly back as fast as I can, up the driveway, into the garage, run upstairs. There they are, sitting together, bawling at the top of their heads. And what do you think the first thing is they told my wife when she came through the door?
Daddy left
us. Which was worse than me leaving them.
What the funny thing is, I was going to say to you, I can't believe you actually admitted that to your wife that you left them, but they told on you, so it didn't matter.
I didn't. And I wasn't. And I figured they weren't smart enough to be able to cover for me. Yeah. Say, okay, if anyone asks, this never happened.
Right.
So the minute she walked through the door, they said, Daddy left us. Which.
That's great.
So I learned my lesson.
You were ratted out by your kids, The mommies always do. They're loyal to the mommies, you know that. Yeah. Mommy's going to know everything, so it's not even worth trying to hide it. But I would have gotten killed, too. Yeah, I would have gotten slaughtered. for doing that. But at least you remembered. At least it wasn't like 3 miles away that you turned around. No. So let's talk about this Karina Nascimento show that took place this past weekend, and I think it's her third year now. Maybe second year. I mean, she's done a great job on the show. You know, it takes a lot of work to put on a show. I know she runs it with Tim Gardner, but, you know, she's the face of the show and she promotes it. And I know that this year they did a lot of – they tried out some Masters events, some Masters men's physique, 40 and over, figure, 40 and over, and bikini, 40 and over. I'm talking on the pro level. Mm-hmm. So see if they – I don't know if it was so successful. They didn't really get that many people in the pro divisions for the Masters, but the open divisions were really good. In men's physique, Darrem Charles back. I didn't even know he was going to compete this year, but I guess he's back. He won, narrowly beating, from what I understand from the pictures at least, Lee Banks, who I didn't know was going down to Classic Physique, which must have been a huge amount of muscle he must have had to have lost because he was pretty damn big. Yeah,
well, he was on stage around 215, like when he was peeled.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what do you think he had to weigh? He probably had to weigh in the 190s, I would think, or 180s, right?
I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't even seen pictures yet.
It might be. He might have had to weigh 205. I don't know. I have to look at the things too. I don't know. I always forget that because I don't know how tall people are. So for their height, it's based on height versus weight. So I don't know what Lee had to weigh. But I went and looked at his Facebook page. I saw a picture of him. He looks like a different bodybuilder. He actually looks better, I think. He has better symmetry, you know.
I do too.
Smaller.
I do too.
He's probably 100% natural too, if I know.
I'm sure he's 100% natural because even when he was because
I think he said he was. I think that's what it said on his page.
Well, believe me, when he was, I helped him for one show, 3 shows or whatever. I think his last set of shows when he was competing.
Yeah.
And he had the type of physique. Great guy, by the way. So I mean, not to say that Darrem Charles is not, because they're both great guys. And Lee certainly didn't go anywhere near heavy on the magic Tic Tacs.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This is a great division for him because I can remember seeing him in a show against Rowley and in Chicago against when Rowley wasn't as quite as big as he is now, but he was still huge, against Compton, against I think Issa Obiad, and technically he had the best. This is the distinction for Phil Heath's wife. Technically, he had the best body up there.
Right.
Meaning he was in tremendous condition for that show. And he was, quote, big enough. So I thought he's either going to win because he's peeled,
mm-hmm.
and he's big for his frame, or he's going to end up in 5th because everyone else is bigger,
right,
but not as conditioned. And that's exactly how it went down. He ended up 5th. So he has a great lines, great symmetry, and I think they're even more pronounced at this lighter body weight.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of his Facebook pages and posts from March 17th. He said, "Who says natural bodybuilding is dead?" ? So I'm assuming he's natural. And there was a picture of him with a double bi. I thought he was just putting that up there because he was like, I'm trying to do something different. I didn't know he was going to compete actually, but he was good. I mean, I look at the pictures; he was really good. If you go to his Facebook page, he's got all the pictures up there. I'm impressed. I think it's weird because sometimes some people can transition from bodybuilding to classic very well. Other people can't because maybe their waist is too big or just too much muscle. It's just your proportion changes too when you get older.
Yeah, that's right. They lose their legs.
Yeah, what I mean? He didn't lose anything. He looks really good.
Yeah,
really good.
So I'm looking at pictures now.
Yeah. So he. I thought it was good from the. I think Santi Aragon, who finished in 3rd place, I think could have won the show as well. I think any one of those 3 guys could have won. I was very impressed with both of them, to be honest with you. It was a close show. I mean, it was very good. It might have been the best men's physique show, in a long time, just aside from the Olympia,
Yeah, I think it to me it's probably that top 3. That's an extremely deep top 3.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm looking at these pictures on Lee Banks' Facebook page between these 3 guys, and I'm like, holy mackerel.
But you know what Darrem looks Darrem Stand and Relax looks really good.
Yeah.
He looks. Boy, they hit the shots right similar, and they look. They're the same height, same skin tone.
Yeah. I thought Sandy Aragon looked really good. He's a little shorter than these other guys, but he's shredded, man. Crazy. I interviewed him last year. He had told me he was going to go back to 212 bodybuilding. He didn't like this Classic Physique. And I used to told him he was crazy. I said, you're perfect for Classic Physique. And I guess he went back to it. Someone must have talked him into it. So I think it's a good move for him. I think it's a good class for him. No sense in trying to, be subject your body to all that. I mean, you could be if you fit into a class, go with it. I think I once asked, I don't know if it was Flex Lewis or it was Flex Lewis. I said, "Why don't you go to the Open?" He's like, "Yeah, I tried it. I tried it once, but I'm so good at what I am. I'm the champ. Why would I leave?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I guess it makes sense. If you're really good at something, why give it up? I guess unless you get bored of it." Let's talk about the Women's Physique Division, which was another stellar. She got some good competitors here. Shanique Grant, who we've been very high on ever since her New York Pro win, and at the last year's Women's Physique, her first show. She's definitely put on quite a bit of muscle since then. She's still filling out her frame, but I mean, this is we're always looking for the next Linda Murray, and she's got to be pretty much the closest I've seen to that. Very impressive physique.
Yeah, she's just like the walking V. Although, right, the girl who got second, what's her name? Camilla?
Oh, yeah, she's that little Rosella Joseph girl is really good. They call her little Hercules or something like that, the female Hercules. But she's good. But Shanique Grant in shape, can she be beaten? That's the question. I mean, does she need a little bit more muscle? Yeah, but I mean that's impressive. I mean, her waistline might be smaller than LaToya Watts. I don't know, but let me see. I'm going to send you a picture that Johnny sent me yesterday of the women's biggest. Hold on.
Yeah, send it.
Send it over to you because I know you'll be impressed. Johnny he was like the on-site, impromptu, unofficial photographer there. All right. There was another girl who came in third, too, who had striated glutes, which were crazy. I assume it's Jeannie Feldman from the scorecards who's third. I'm assuming that's who's up there. But she didn't have as good a shape as these other girls, but she was impressive conditioning-wise. I like conditioning. Maybe she was too much. I don't know.
I know you love conditioning.
But you know what? Shanique is so good because her proportions are so good. She's not the best. She's not the best developed out there yet. Because she still needs more back, and she definitely needs to build some more muscle. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that in another year, she could be challenging Juliana for that, women's physique Olympia crown.
Well,
you get the picture?
Yeah. So what's the difference between this and bodybuilding?
Nothing. There's nothing.
Okay, I just want to confirm that because I first and second, and to a degree third, but first and second look like unbelievable female bodybuilders.
We said it. We said that women's physique was a reboot of women's bodybuilding. We knew it was going to get to that point. Luckily, hopefully, they don't let them get too much bigger. But I mean, these girls are not big. They're just really.
No, they're pretty big, Dave. I mean, big compared to what? Rami?
The girl on the left is very big. The third place girl, but Shanique is not huge. It's proportion.
Okay, how big a little? How? I think the girl who got second. To me, her back, delts, and arms look like big in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see someone saying, "Well, she's not big."
Yeah.
She looks huge.
She's probably got a more developed physique than Shanique, but
she
Shanique's
does.
got some wacky legs though in her.
Yeah. She does, and you're right.
And she's got youth on her side too, Shanique.
Yeah.
She's like 20, something like that. But
this classic, the classic lineup is. I'm looking at it now.
I'm making some bold statements. I don't know what her mental state is, but I mean, at 21 years old or whatever she is, 21 years old. I mean, if Shanique can't be Miss Olympia for 10 years, I don't know who can. In that women's physique division. I mean, she's that good, I think.
Yeah, no, you're.
You don't see too many talents like that come along very often. It's once in a generation. And no one has really come along. And we said that would happen. I was assuming in classic physique you're going to get someone like her too, who shows up, and it's just like, how do you beat this person? Because structurally you can't beat them.
Yeah.
Put 5 more pounds on her body of muscle. I mean,
I keep making the prediction, Dave. I'll go back to classic. I know it's going off the subject, but you got 8 people signed up for the Brazil show. Classic is going to dominate the IFBB. Classic bodybuilding will dominate the IFBB probably within 18 months. Yeah,
and they'll probably be in posing trunks probably within another 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it'll be another bodybuilding division, but I don't know. I like it. I like the women's physique. I like the men's physique. I like where women's physique went because it did. Look, there's no women's bodybuilding. Let's face it. There are a couple shows, that are sponsored by Wings of Strength, but by and far, this has become the women's bodybuilding that we enjoyed, really watching and critiquing, and so. I'm glad that I hope it doesn't get any bigger than this. I think they should kind of cap it off at what it is now. But I think the girls are really good. I think
we'll put a cap on it. You're right.
Some good talent. Yeah, they can't cap anything, unfortunately. We're an industry of overabundance of everything we do. Over extreme people. All right. What else is going on? Let me see. I gotta check my notes. Going back to the death of Jackie Paisley for a minute, because that seems to be the theme of the show, unfortunately. But a lot of people are very mentally unstable in the sense that they're not happy with their lives, Chris. And I received an email this morning, ironically, after getting the news of Jackie Paisley from someone who, and I don't know if it was a fake email. I don't know if it doesn't seem like a fake email. And I have a couple crazy clients who it doesn't sound like them writing to me because I know they're not as coherent as this person. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read it because I think it's important. Dave, I wish my mindset was as strong as yours. I'm 22 years old and I'm ready for suicide. I know you said the mind is everything, but I can't find a reason to live besides the hope that one day I will be Mr. Olympia. The person I would walk to the ends of the earth for couldn't care less about me. I've never had relationships last over a month. Thank you for sharing positivity and promoting the sport of bodybuilding in ways unlike any other. I hope I can catch Ask Dave, Heavy Muscle Radio, Iron Debate, Iron Rage in the other world.
There's one key word in that. Yeah. One key word in that whole cry out for help.
What?
Relationships.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any meaningful relationships, you can have a meaningful relationship with your pet dog, and I don't mean that in any negative way.
I know what you're saying.
You know what? I have, because that's a fact. It doesn't have to be a person. You can have a, connection with your dog. I know lots of people who are depressed, and they don't have relationships. They have no one. They don't have, family. They don't have a significant other. And ultimately, they end up getting some type of therapy dog, and I'm talking about apartments, right?
Yeah.
And I used to have this strict no pet policy, no pets, no pets. And then people would start, they'd come to me with a letter from
sub story.
They have a doctor's, I need a therapy dog, and the person would be stable for forever after that.
Yeah.
But the key to that is relationships. It's not how you define success, because you can change the markers for what you think is successful all the time. And society changes. the definition of a success for you if you can't internalize what you think your success is. But relationships are what are stable.
Yeah. Well,
and
I think,
you know what? No amount of medication can change the fact that you have, or the unfortunate fact that you don't have relationships.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think that, people think about all the terrible things in their life. Look, I'll be honest with you. I woke up, I always wake up a little early. Like, I'll go to the bathroom, I'll lay in bed, and then as I'm walking to the bathroom, my knee's bothering me because my quad's not right, and my shoulders are hurting me, and I'm like, and then I start feeling pity for myself. So as I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about, this leg, do I need surgery again? This, that, and I start, and then, you know what? I get an email like that, and I'm like, you know what? I got it pretty damn good, and aside from the maybe a half hour a day, I'll feel sorry for myself. I really don't focus on that. I have an internal clock, so to speak, that just tells me, what I need to be doing and what I'm passionate about, and to focus on that. And it's not easy. People think I have such a strong mindset, or you have a strong mindset. We don't have a strong mindset. We're just as weak and feeble as everyone else. It's just that we choose our thoughts, and we choose to think about the good stuff. Your kids, your career, the people you help, bodybuilding, things that you're passionate about, and that's what gets you past those bad times. Because everyone can think. I mean, let's face it. We are flawed creatures. We're physical bodies that with a soulful, I guess you could say, soulful animation, so to speak, animating this machine. And the machine is flawed. It's gonna break down, and it's gonna have problems, and it's not gonna work so well. But the internal that internal mechanism that's running this whole machine, if you want to call it the soul, the spirit, whatever, that never changes. That's always perfect, and that's what you have to go back to. I think a lot of people don't go back to that. It was a good quote. I picked a few quotes of the week this week. I had two of them, actually. The one was, and it was funny because I picked it before this topic even came up. And the quote is, "Many people focus on unwanted things with no deliberate attention to the emotional guidance within them." That's what I call your spirit. "And then they try to compensate for their lackful thinking with physical action. And because of the misalignment of energy, they do not get the results from their action. So then they try harder by offering more actions, but still things do not improve." And isn't that true, Chris? You feel bad inside, and you try to overcompensate by doing, buying physical material things for yourself, or trying to do action, but you don't really, it's not coming from within you. You're not listening to what your inner being is telling you to do. And that results in more failure for people. And that's the problem. You have to love yourself before you can love everything else in life. And I think a lot of people don't. And you have to go back to who makes you what you are, and what drives you. Everyone has got something that makes them feel good about themselves. Everyone's got some kind of passion, like you said. Even if it's for a puppy dog, that's what you got to focus on, not what you don't have.
Well, it's the timeless battle of, I guess you would say, your soul, or not even remove that. It's the timeless battle of taming your ego. Mm. You know what I mean? Your ego, which you can define a million different ways, is always wanting more stuff and more things, and stuff and things. They're fun, but they're you can't put stuff and things in a casket.
No, can't take it with you. That's for sure.
Meaning there's no significant meaning from it. And when you're actually going back to relationships, when you are lying in a hospital bed, whether it be dying of a terrible cancer or old age or dementia, and you want people around you who you have relationships with. You don't ask, by the way, how's my Rolls Royce? Is it still running well? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
things.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of us get a wake up call. You had a wake up call. Obviously, you had the cancer thing going on that you had to get rid of and beat, and I'm sure that made you reevaluate your life and a lot of things that you were doing and weren't doing. And unfortunately, for some people, they need that, or that almost like changes their whole outlook on life. And for other people, they can do it internally. They just know what feels good inside, and they follow that emotional guidance system that this quote was talking about. Another great quote, which is kind of similar, kind of piggybacks onto what we just said, was by my uncle. My uncle Mel. My dad has 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and I think there's only a couple of them. My dad's alive. My dad, ironically, is the oldest. My dad's alive. My uncle Vinny's alive. And the 2 sisters, my 2 aunts are alive. But all the other brothers have passed since. And the third brother, my father was the first. The third brother was named after my grandfather, Carmelo, or Mel. And my father and him didn't really get along too well. But he was a great artist. And all the brothers are really good artists, ironically. And I guess my aunt or my cousin, they had like a little. My Uncle Mel lived in the Hamptons, and there's a big art community out there. It's just an art gallery. They displayed all his things, and it was like a memorial for him. And they put up a page out of one of his sketchbooks where he put a quote, and it's from 1978, and this is the quote: "What you know is boring. You have to do what you don't know." And it was written in like magic marker, and it was just. But it's true, isn't it? Isn't what you know boring? Even bodybuilding gets boring for me. That's why I'm always looking for new things that I don't know anything about. Whether it be boating, when I got into that for a while, or cars, or now I'm into reptiles. Like, always had to do something that I didn't know. I don't know why. You would think, hey, stick with what you know, right? Because you're so good at it. But it gets boring, right? And we don't want life to be boring.
Well, you got to stick with what you know to be really successful in something. But if you are bored, right? I mean, there's nothing worse than being bored. But
think about it, Chris. How many diets have you written for people? It's kind of the same thing over and over and over. It does get a little boring.
Use one and issue it to everyone. Same one. Here you go.
You're good at it, and that's why you like to do it. But it's boring after a while because it's like, all right, another contest diet. Yeah, I already got Sean Roden, who was second in the Olympia, or I already got Jay Cutler, who's Mr. Olympia in shape. So,
I get this. You want to know the contrast between boring and exciting? You go like this. Cedric won the Arnold. Yeah. Big deal. Sean Ray just interrupted your interview, Dave, and pulled the guy.
That was more interesting, right? Exactly.
More pumped up about that. And you know what? The whole bodybuilding community does.
Yeah.
No, dare you steal? Right.
It's the truth. It's definitely the truth. I mean, but this is it's the reason I mentioned this quote is because don't get comfortable in what you do unless you really love it so much. I mean, try to do things you don't know about. Learn about stuff that you don't know anything about because that's interesting. And that'll keep. Believe me, you get into a new hobby or into a new interest. All your boredom that was there and all the depressing thoughts that you had will disappear because you'll have something new to obsess over. And so that's that was a very wise quote from my late Uncle Mel. There you go.
Yeah, no, he's right. It's a great quote. It's very simple and very short.
Yeah. The wisdom is in its simplicity and its simplicity, for that matter. So, let's take a quick commercial break, Chris, for the sponsors to be heard, and when we come back, we'll talk about what took place this past week on RxMuscle.com, and then, of course, what's coming up for the future. And we got a couple of Ask Dave and Ask the Technician questions that we can go over as well. I know people like when we do that. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent-pending andro compounds. The most effective, hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. Iron Mag Labs. Revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo talking with Chris Aceto. And, we had some pretty deep conversations before the commercial break about life and, what's important and what drives your passions. And let's take another step in the other direction at this point and talk about what's coming up in the world of bodybuilding, because that's what a lot of people want to know about. And, obviously, there's many different shows coming up, and so many that I can't even mention them all. But it's exciting. I think that we're in the exciting portion of the schedule now. Johnny and I will be going in 2 weeks to the FIBO show in Germany, which is going to be really exciting. I haven't been there in 2 years, and I got the ability to do that because Yamamoto Nutrition is sponsoring all our coverage of RxMuscle for the month of April, so we appreciate that. We got a new sponsor on board, and they're going to be bringing us out to FIBO to cover their booth and all the athletes they have. They're signing 1 million athletes. It's pretty crazy how much what they're doing over there. I'm very impressed with this company. They're kind of taking over where, SciTech kind of, I guess when they got sold, they took they didn't get out of bodybuilding, but they dropped a lot of their athletes. And it seems like Yamamoto is picking them up. It seems like our old friend Marcelo Bella is doing pretty well over there with Black Skull Nutrition in Brazil, too. I see they're signing
Marcelo Bella, if you want the definition of passion, just post his beard and his face in the dictionary, because Marcelo is an innovator. Marcelo, who used to be the marketing director for what was the other supplement company?
Probiotica, which I don't even know if they're still in existence anymore after he left.
Once they got rid of him, I mean, talk about a cardinal sin. Getting rid of the guy who's the energy. I mean, yes, they had the quality. Yes, they had the plant. I was there with Eduardo Correa. Mm-hmm. It was a family-run business. Once it goes from like family business, which is passion, to like business guys. I have my MBA from Harvard, and I am going to come in and we're going to buy into Probiotica. First thing, get rid of Freeman, get rid of DJ, get rid of Eduardo Correa.
That's what all these companies do.
Good fucking move, you morons.
And now the
so Marcelo Bella, who used to do marketing for them, when he told me that he was going to start a new company once his non-disclosure, whatever, non-compete, non-something expired, the chances of it being unsuccessful because it's Marcelo are none.
Right.
None. Like 99.999999% chance of success, because if he has to work 28 hours a day, 385 days a year, he will get the job done. Yeah, that's Marcelo Bella. Yeah. And one other thing, and this is I can't say enough good things about this guy, but keep his word, honest. You're not going to find anyone more honest and more committed to what he says he's going to do and follow through with it than Marcelo Bella.
Oh, I agree, because we've had business workings with him in the past, and he's always absolutely lived up to his word. So
you know what? Let me just tell you this: he had an agreement with someone on a handshake, and the person tried to get out of that handshake. I got so pissed because I introduced them. Right. And I said, Marcelo's handshake is far better than anyone else's signature.
You're right. You're right. I could attest to that.
And there was a time we did business by handshake. So I'm really excited when you say, Sarah, when I hear that Marcelo Bella is doing well with his company, Black Skull, it's because he deserves it.
Well, they signed Flex Wheeler.
Did they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, he did. And what do you think about the Flex Wheeler comeback at the Classic Physique Olympia? How will he do against these guys?
I don't know how he's going to do. I think, I've said it ad nauseum that, I like to remember Flex Wheeler as, Arnold Classic champion Flex Wheeler and USA winner Flex Wheeler, meaning whatever he looks like compared to that, we're going to be kind of disappointed. But I might be putting my foot in my mouth. I've been critical of it. Not critical of it. I've said I like to remember these guys for being their best. He might, I doubt it, surprise us and do a Lee Banks, which Lee Banks' physique is fabulous at a lower body weight. But Lee Banks is not 50.
Right.
And I said Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan, they kind of were genetic freaks, right, for their sport.
Sure.
And workaholics. They struggled, meaning they didn't have the ability to come back.
It's the Dexter Jackson comment. Hey, people want to know why I'm doing so well. I'm 46, 48, whatever he is. I never stopped. Lee Banks never stopped. Livroni stopped. Flex stopped. It's going to be hard to get back what you lost. It's an edge. It's easier to maintain muscle than it is to get it back once you've lost it. That's just the fact, especially when you're in your 50s. Will he do well? I think Flex just has a great, beautiful physique. I think he'll always look good, but I don't think he's going to look good enough at the Olympia level, at least, to beat some of these heavy hitters that are coming in there. The Shanique Grants of the men's division. These structurally amazing guys that have similar. Look, even if Flex's genetics were better than some of these guys, he still has age against him. You know what I mean? These guys have skin that looks amazing. They're just young. Youth is huge in our sport. I know there's a lot of guys that do really well. Look at the men's physique, classic physique we talked about this past weekend with Darrem Charles and Lee Banks. But I mean, there's something to youth that it's really it really helps. Give the skin a good look, the tightness, and it is what it is. But like I said, it's exciting that there's going to be a legend in the lineup because we always want to see that. And in the back of our heads, you see, I would never root against Flex Wheeler because in the back of my head, I'm like, I want to see him do well. And I know, what? This guy's a genetic freak. How could you say that this guy's not going to do well? So I just keep saying, look, I don't know if it's a good idea because, I'm more concerned about his health. But physique wise, who knows? Let's see what he brings. But I want to thank our friend, a new friend, Don Smith from California Crazy Wear. You remember Don Smith? I just interviewed him this past week on.
Of course, I remember Don Smith.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't put the interview up yet.
Nobody would know who Don Smith is. Don Smith was a clothing innovator.
Yeah. Did you know that Don Smith actually ran Gold's Gym for a while in Venice there?
I did not know that.
He was the manager, yeah, for a little bit. For Ed Connors he worked for. And then him and he was working with Mike Christian on his Platinum Everywhere clothing line. And then I guess, I don't know if they had some kind of a disagreement. Him and Stridham then started California Crazy Wear. It was very successful. Don got out at one point and sold, Gary bought him out. He then had a financial advisor steal money or cost him his whole portfolio, like crazy, like $5-6 million or something like that. And then he got back in and he bought Stridham out, and Stridham now is living in Thailand, and now Don's running California Crazy Wear. It's a great, when you see the interview, it's a great interview. Because the reason I'm mentioning is because a lot of people might not know who Don Smith is, and you might say, I don't want to watch this interview. I'm telling you, when the interview goes up, you want to watch it because Don Smith is it's got some good stories in there, and they're selling some great clothing. I got to tell you, after all these years, even though the look has evolved, because you remember back in the 80s and 90s, there was the big clown pants that people would wear.
Yeah.
And now it's more, it looks more mainstream, the clothing, but the clothing is top notch still. And there's if you mention RxMuscle, use the code RxMuscle on checkout, you get 10% off your orders at crazywear.com. And crazy is spelled Crazee, then wear.com. So you guys want to check that out. It's funny because Andy Hammond is actually in the ads for Crazy Wear. He did him in his.
What from those clothing lines came hot wires.
Hot stuff. No, not hot stuff. Hot skins. Hot skins.
And then from that also came. I know you know Donnie. I don't even know his name anymore. They had a huge clothing company in California when I was out there. Hot Skins was huge. I remember going over to the lady's house, Trisha's house, and just seeing her.
Well, what people don't realize is that in the 90s, there's something called Main Street right there in Venice. That's where the firehouse is on. It's like right around the corner from the Gold Gym. On Main Street, there was strips. There's like strips of stores. They're all just weird stores, but back then, every store next door to each other, not like down the block, next door to each other was one clothing store after the other. They had the Crazy Wear store, they had the Hot Skin store, they had I don't even remember all of them. There was probably the Platinum Everywhere store. There was a store right next to each other, and there wouldn't be a lot of people. Probably most people who went into those stores to buy the clothing were like people who were visiting, just tourists and stuff like that, and bodybuilders that were traveling into the area. But people would go there and they would order for their stores because all the gyms carried the stuff. But that was they were making so much money, these clothing companies, they were able to afford a storefront on Main Street there, which I'm sure the rent was expensive. And I just remember that. I remember going there in the early 90s, and then I would walk up and down, I'd go from the firehouse and then walk the strip, and I would walk into literally like 6 different clothing companies. And then down the block a little bit, there was that Perfetto. I remember there was
Perfetto, yes. Yeah. Perfetto, I remember Perfetto clothing.
It was by the Marina Pacific Hotel over there. But that was the heyday of clothing, If you were anything, you went there and you came home with 15 different outfits basically, and they weren't cheap either. But it was good. Those were good days. And anyway, so Don Smith is still doing it after all these years, and he's got a great clothing line. Check it out, and check out the interview with him. I also want to bring up the fact that I have the new Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru one-day seminar that I give, that 10-hour class that basically goes over everything from nutrition, performance-enhancing drugs, supplements, final week contest prep, men, women, the whole litany of anything you could possibly want to know as a diet guru coach. It's coming back, and since we're now back in the studios, my new offices, it'll be held there, and that the next date is May 27th. I was going to do it sooner, but you know what? A lot of people travel, so I wanted to make sure people had time to book their flights and the hotels. And if you go to my DavePalumbo.com website, when you sign up, there's a list of some hotels there that you guys can check it out. We'll also be I'm also providing lunch to everyone at 3 Pepper Burrito Cafe. Now that's there's no Taco Joe's down here, but that's about as close as you get to it. And Johnny found that place, so I went there and I tested it out, and it's really good. It's just like Taco Joe's. So we'll be giving you lunch. So once again, sign up though at DavePalumbo.com. And the reason I tell you that is because if you don't and I run out of spots, then you're gonna have to wait till the next one because we only have limited seating. So we've already probably sold about half the seats to the course. So don't forget that. What else do I want to say? Did you watch the Guy Cisternino interview I did with him this past week? I can't believe you didn't watch it.
No.
He gets better and better. He's so good. When I love interviewing him, because he's such a nutcase, and I know he listens to the show. He is so, opinionated about everything, and he's not afraid to tell you his opinion on anything. And the reason I got him on there is because, he did the open class at the Arnold Australia the following week before, and I wanted to get his impression on that. But he was also the first guy there when Dallas McCarver was going down on stage, and Guy almost carried him off the stage, and then he was backstage with him. So I wanted to get his firsthand impression because you know how all these people are trying to say that, Dallas was faking it, it was Chad that OD'd him on diuretics, and that's why he passed out, and he didn't have a respiratory tract infection. So I wanted to get Guy's firsthand, he was the medic on the scene there, and Guy confirmed that he was coughing excessively the whole weekend, and that he was definitely sick. And but Guy is such a terrific interview. If you like to watch people who just are not afraid to just say what's on their mind, watch that interview. It was terrific.
No, I haven't seen it because I listen to him all the time on the phone. So
yeah, you probably
I do my own little interviews. I ask him something and he's off to the races.
He's great. But you know what? As he's getting older now he doesn't give a shit anymore. He just basically says whatever.
He don't care.
And of course, probably the coup d'etat TV show of the week. If any of you guys, probably most of you have seen it already, is the Boston Lloyd Greg Valentino Iron Debate episode we had. Was terrific. There's not many shows that I go back and rewatch because when you're in the show, it's kind of like what's going on already, and I only have so much time. But that was a show. Sometimes I miss the nuances of Greg Valentino and Boston. So I had to go back and watch it because when I'm in the midst of it, I'm just I'm trying to make sure the show goes at a good pace, and then we get all the questions in, and then people aren't over talking, and I don't really get to enjoy it. But it was a very good show, and obviously we addressed some of these topics. The Dallas McCarver Sean Ray debate. We addressed is Flex Wheel's return to the stage a good choice, and then we talked about the recent rash of deaths. Ironically, we didn't even know about Jackie Paisley then in bodybuilding, and what's the blame for it. And I thought that the answers that you, myself, Greg, and Boston gave were also from different wakes of life, but yet we all kind of agreed in a sense on certain things, at least that what was going on. So I thought it was a great show, and like I said, Valentino's out of his mind, and Boston is just radical honesty, tell whatever he thinks. So I thought it went over well. You were even amused, I noticed at a couple points, which I thought was very funny by Boston and Greg.
Greg had equated Flex Wheeler coming back to Classic like Derek Jeter going to play Police Athletic League softball.
yeah, that was pretty good. But and Greg, every time we get him on, his connection, you'd think he was in Guam or something like that. It's like he's using like a 1990 computer that has a webcam that probably he rigged up with some toothpicks or something like that. And it was good. It got a lot of shares on our site. I see that a lot of people were very very entertained by the show. That's, I guess, the best way to put it. So
I had asked Greg. He said, I like Sean Ray. I said, give me one redeeming quality. He couldn't give me one. one endearing quality.
Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. So make sure you check out those two.
You got to put in a plug, dude, for the RX YouTube station.
Yeah, well, Johnny gave me some crazy statistic the other day that I think we have I think in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks we've gotten 6,000 subscribers or something crazy like that. Let me see where we're up to. We've been growing though. I know that. We have 73,400 subscribers now. So I said around the Arnold we'd be. I was looking for 75. I always have I always shoot higher. Because I don't want to shoot too low and then actually achieve my goal. By the end of the year, I'd like to be at 100. Obviously, that's the ultimate goal. So if you guys love the content that we put up there and you have not subscribed to the RxMuscle YouTube channel, make sure you do that at the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. What else do I want to talk about? The John Romano and I did a great segment also on, ironically enough, recreational drug use in bodybuilders and what causes that and why people do that. And it kind of, I guess, touches on what we were talking about today and people's, and you mentioned this when we were in the commercial break about the fact that a lot of people, when they don't feel good inside, they just take drugs to kind of get that good feeling, which is obviously only very temporary and never is sustaining. And I think that, and I'm sure there's recreational drug issues in every aspect of life, but I see it in bodybuilding a lot. A lot of guys become disillusioned or they become depressed and they start popping Percocets and that could escalate obviously into other things. And I thought it was an interesting topic that John and I explored.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, it's not unique to bodybuilding. That's the issue. That's not the issue, but that's a component of it. Recreational drug use is not restricted to bodybuilding, right?
No, absolutely not. It's in every aspect of life.
You can my father didn't come home and pop perks, but the first thing when he walked through the door on a tough day is he would say, "I need a stiff drink," and I knew what that meant as a little kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he didn't have the maybe he didn't have the tools to unwind or the tools to
Right. Although I will say one thing: when I get home, sometimes I pop out a bottle of wine and I take like 3 sips, But when you have kids, all of a sudden wine becomes a great relaxing. Now I know why Blackman drinks so much wine, to deal with his crazy kids.
No, my sister told me that a long time ago. She said, I can't deal with my kids without a glass of wine at the end of the day.
I've heard more than one people tell me that, and it's funny. It is funny. When you have kids, the days become jam-packed with a lot more stuff than you normally used to. And as you get older, it's harder to do more things. So it's like, I'm an older father and older parent. And so for me, I'm like trying to slow down. And now I got a new son, and I'll probably have another one hopefully soon. And it's like speeding up my life, which will probably keep me living a lot longer. But it can get overwhelming, I'm sure, as you know. Probably more so in your case because you got 3 kids that are very active,
But wait till they're doing sports and stuff, and they have to go to I got to go to soccer. I got to go to, you know what I mean? It's in the olden days, right?
Yeah.
In the olden days, this is how it worked. Communities were built around like a high school, a junior high, and high school, and the fields were nearby, and you kids could just go to the practice.
Yeah.
Now it's people are spread out and.
If I ever suggested to my wife that my son take his bicycle and ride around the corner, she'd be like, "What are you, nuts?" Back then I drove everywhere on my bike.
Yeah, it was like a car.
Yeah. All right, I got a couple of Ask the Technician questions for you. Not a lot, but I got a couple for you. All right. Okay. Regarding Cody Montgomery, Chris, are you still working with him, and what are his future prospects like in the IFBB? Is he big enough to win a big pro show?
Yes, and yes. Yes, I'm working with him. He's like in limbo right now in terms of what he's going to do show-wise. And yes, he can get, quote, he can get big enough simply because if you just backtrack, he was, quote, big enough to win the Nationals, or USA rather. I posted that on my Instagram to give Sean Ray a dig. I said, you know what? I just realized he was the youngest. I think he broke Sean's record, youngest person to win a national level show like that.
Yeah.
Sean before that. And then, he did the Arnold, and he had just turned 21 when he did the Arnold, and I thought he looked fabulous at the Arnold. He gave up size, but what's funny is that lineup was a little bit deeper than this year's lineup. In other words, his conditioning alone, had he brought that type of conditioning at 22 this year, would have, and because there's not a lot of people in the show this year, would have created better call-outs than he had the year before. Because, of course, the year before you had Compton and Branch,
right,
and Cedric and Kai, and you had Max Charles. So automatically, all those guys carry more muscle than him.
Yeah, I bet if he would have done a smaller show, he'd probably go to 1-1 even if he really wanted to cherry pick his competitions. Like if you could have picked a little like a real weak show for him and put him in there. Cody won his first pro show. We could have had that whole thing going on. He jumped right in with the big boys.
Yep. So those are all yes answers.
Okay. Next question. Hey Dave, don't know if you have tried smashed Yukon Gold potatoes with skin left on them, mixed with milk or soy milk, salt, and butter with Logan. You may want to try it. My daughter, who is 22 months old, is in love with them. Okay, so I'll have to try that recipe. Anyway, question for the technician: which job is best to have alongside bodybuilding? Seems like firefighters and cops are common.
You should marry someone wealthy.
You're right. That's a good one.
The only work you have to do is say, "I do."
You're right.
I honestly think that outside of what Paul DeMeo did, dig ditches, I think any job is compatible with bodybuilding. You just have to you just have to have the mindset that you don't have to be sitting and resting all day. Right.
Yep.
It's like saying well, I can't have kids because I'm busy at work. Or to me it's sliding down the road to excuses, because you can recover and be working 40-hour work week. You just have to plan your day. And I think a lot of people get into lifestyles where they're not working much, and because they're not working much, they think that that's going to enhance their gains, but they don't gain any more than they would if they were working 40 hours a week, whatever that job may be.
True. You remember the movie Good Will Hunting? Did you see that?
Yes.
That Damon, where he's he's brilliant. The kid's like a prodigy, but he's working digging ditches, in Boston area, with his loser friends. And the best line in the movie is when Ben Affleck, who's his best friend, but he's he goes, I never want to say anything to you, but every morning when I come pick you up, I'm hoping you're just not going to be here because, he goes, you're digging ditches with us guys. Nothing wrong with digging ditches. It's a living. It's an honest living, but, you don't belong here. You're destined for bigger and better things. And, it's funny that you mentioned Paul DeMeo because I'm sure, he was digging ditches and then he went on and he became, a top, tier bodybuilder. And I'm sure he was able to get out of that job and move on. But probably a lot of people, can't do that. But, you have to have a real job, as a bodybuilder because it doesn't pay a lot of money and it takes a while to make a living out of the sport. So I think that's an important thing.
Sometimes you can hate a job so much that it's motivating to get out of it.
Yeah.
It makes you focus on your bodybuilding.
Sure. All right. The other part of the question was about Dorian Yates. The Dorian Yates in-depth interview with London Real seems to reveal that he is only now finding out who he really is. He was so entrenched in bodybuilding and then into the party lifestyle after being forced to retire that it took him getting into his late 40s and early 50s to find himself. Chris, your thoughts on that and other bodybuilders having somewhat similar experiences?
Well, some people never find themselves, ever, and they die.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Two, I guess it depends on how I didn't see it, and I don't know Dorian well, and I spoke with him recently, though. Great guy, but everything's a process. So at that point in time, when he's Mr. Military Man training for the Olympia and just have nothing on his mind 24/7 except winning the Olympia.
Right.
One, there's nothing wrong with that. And two, that's part of the process of finding yourself. And at that point, he had found himself. He had found the most important thing in his life, bodybuilding, which gave him discipline that allowed him, after that part of his life is over, to continue with his self-discovery and figure out, who am I?
Yeah.
And, he might look back from 10 years from now and say, geez, 2017, I thought I knew who I was, and I still didn't know.
Right. No, I think we're always rediscovering who we are. Exactly. And the interesting thing about Dorian in that interview was that he said that it wasn't like he had any other options. He's like, I only had one card to play. This bodybuilding thing. I was good at it. It was the only. I was stronger than the other guys. I didn't know how far I can go in it, but I felt like at least I had an advantage over people. He goes, so I said, I'm going to play this card. It's the only card I got, and if I'm going to play it, I got to play it 100% because there's no chance of failure because I have no place else to go. He had nothing to fall back on. Like Dave Palumbo could have gone back to medical school if he wanted to, when I got into bodybuilding. But Dorian had nothing to fall. So desperation sometimes can be a great, great motivator.
Well, it can be a motivator, and it can allow you to, it can force you to focus like you never thought you had focus.
Yeah. My dad was working in construction with his father after high school, and he wasn't really a terrific high school student. He just didn't really, he came from an abusive, a physically abusive, I guess you could say, home life. And he just went to work for his dad, even though his dad was the guy he was beating him up. And someone someone who worked at the job said, "Hey, why don't you go to college?" And my dad's like, "College? What's that?" And he's like, "Well, you sound like a pretty intelligent guy, and I think maybe check it out." So my dad tried to apply to Long Island University, and no one would take him because his grades were so bad in high school, and he somehow got into some kind of conditional, like a night school he went to, and if he got a certain grade, or something like that, then they would let him enroll in the full time, program. And he was so desperate, he said, to get out of that doing construction for the rest of his life that he studied his ass off, 8 hours a day, and he got straight A's his entire 4 years in college. It was pretty crazy.
You hate something so much, it forces you to focus and get out of that situation.
Yep, that's what Dorian did. Desperation is, like I said, a super motivator. Either you die, like you said, or you succeed. There's no other option. And the final statement of this letter was, and by the way, this letter is from our good friend Derek, who bought you those headphones. He wants to know if you need any new headphones because he notices that you don't wear them.
No, I need the cord that goes from my microphone. And if you order it on Amazon to me, I will send you, a gift certificate for bed bug spraying in your house. On one end, it is what is it, Dave? On one end is the regular cable that goes into the computer, and on the other end is, I don't even know.
All right, last question for you, Chris. Dave, please ask Chris what Justin Compton's real potential in bodybuilding is, and would he ever consider working with him?
I'd consider working with anyone. I'm not a magic man. I always tell people that. I'm always surprised when people want to work with me, actually. But rest assured, if Justin was working with me starting tomorrow and I made a public service announcement, Sean Ray would probably poo-poo that.
Probably.
But I've said, and I've been right on it, Dave. You can go back on radio shows. I've said it, and it's just, there's a push by us all to make, for some reason, Dallas. I've linked those three together. Justin and Kuklo as like the heir apparent to Jay.
Right. Everyone's looking for the next Jay Cutler,
And I keep telling people it's just, not going to happen. And you know why? One reason it's not going to happen. And Jay listens to the show, so he'll probably text me and agree. Because besides having the widest shoulders in town, above the shoulders, you're not going to find another Jay coming around in the next, for a long time. Somebody who knows how to think like him. It goes back to, asked one of the, I can remember either reading or it's in Jay's book or Jay telling me, his father used to make him dig ditches. Think of
another dig. This whole show is about digging ditches.
They were in the concrete business, foundation business, and he was a kid, and he was working with all his brothers. And when they were digging by hand, in the ground, in Massachusetts, some area to lay a foundation.
Okay.
And he was a kid, I don't know, 11, 10, and it was pouring like crazy, and they still had to dig the ditch. Mm-hmm. And it was freezing, the wind.
Sure.
And his father came by, and he started to cry. And because the work was just so overwhelming, and he's a kid. And he said, "Dad, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I can, this is just too much. I'm a little kid and I'm digging, this is too much." And his father said something like, "Keep digging." And Jay kept digging. Jay kept going. So, it's a seed planted in terms of. I'm not saying these guys by any means aren't hard workers, but it's an interesting aspect of his life.
Yeah,
that
made him tough, made him mentally tough,
made him super tough. And being at that level of bodybuilding, you can't just be tough. You also have to be able to think flexibly. And unfortunately, I think a lot of times for those three that I just mentioned, a lot of which Jay didn't have to deal with. With social media, there's a lot of pressure on them to be like number one right now.
Well, I know as soon as I get it done with the show, I'm going outside and I'm going to make Logan start digging some ditches because it seems like there's good success in the ditch diggers today. Between my dad, Paul DeMeo, and Jay Cutler. I mean, you can't go wrong.
No, Jay. Paul used to complain. He used to be getting ready for the junior nationals. Yeah. And his job was to run a jackhammer all day long. He still won the junior nationals running a jackhammer. Yeah,
he probably should never have stopped. Unbelievable. All right, let's do a couple Ask Dave. Now, just for people who want to ask Chris or I questions, you can submit the technician questions to me at huge285@AOL.com. If you want to ask any questions of me, you can send them to aceto@RxMuscle.com. Obviously, I do a Q&A Ask Dave on TV show every week on Wednesday night. I also do a private Q&A for my app members of the Dave Palumbo Experience app, which you can download at your iTunes or Android store. It's $29 a month. You get access to all my articles, videos I've ever done. There's workouts up there. There's daily updates. There's the private Q&A that I do, very in-depth questions you have access to every week. A new one goes up. And so there's I do a lot of Ask Dave questions. So give me two good questions, Chris, you might have here on the radio show. If people like it, you can watch the TV show, which is free, or if you want to join the app. I know a lot of people we have a lot of app subscribers now. People, can ask me unlimited questions on there. I answer them all day long. And so a lot of people have been really enjoying that Dave Palumbo Experience app. So, Chris, what do you got for me?
Dave mentioned a couple weeks ago that he likes to cut sodium one day out, and then after cutting water, add a sodium meal back in. What is his theory behind that? I thought sodium fights with potassium to pull the water. I'd like to know his thoughts and experience.
Yeah, my whole thing is I only cut sodium one day. I don't know what you do, Chris, but I cut it usually like if on a Saturday morning show, I cut it Friday morning when you wake up, no sodium. But then a lot of times guys get really, really dry and hard and almost look like contest ready the night before, like that Friday night. And I'm like thinking, oh boy, if they're this hard now, by the morning they're going to be flat as a pancake. So a lot of times I'll give them sodium in their last meal, but I usually don't do that until I stop their drinking. So if I stop their drinking at 8:30 at night for a Saturday morning prejudging, maybe at 9:30 I let them eat a salty meal. I'll let them add salt because at this point they're already dry. So the salt will give them a little buffer so that overnight, as they're dehydrating and peeing and stuff like that, they don't go flat. It also prevents cramping, And then on Saturday, the day of the show, I give sodium because I'm not drinking, and they're not drinking anything. So the sodium is the advantage of the sodium is it prevents the cramping from occurring. Because think about what a diuretic does is it's constantly pumping sodium and water out of the body. So eventually, you pump enough out, you're going to cramp or you're going to get flat. So that's my feeling. Now, sometimes if guys are super really ripped, I might even give them, in addition to salt on Friday night, I might even give them like a junk meal. I might give them a burger and fries or something like that. So that's just my thinking. It's all about balancing your electrolytes and making sure you have enough fullness and not looking like you should step on stage the night before the show because that's usually not a good sign.
Yeah. Okay, next question is, in a recent interview, Kevin Levrone said he was never going to be able to win the Olympia because of politics. Firstly, do you agree with him, and how much influence backstage or higher-up opinions decide placings? Connected to that, he asked, wait. He said, I cite Bev Francis getting royally screwed in 92 after being so far ahead after the prejudging. I was there. As an example of someone being told to change their scores. Do you have another example of someone who obviously got wronged because of politics? So, yeah.
I don't think that Levrone was ever politically held back from winning any shows. if anything, I think they loved him. I think he got advantage. I think he did better probably than he could have, he should have in some shows because people really liked Kevin. I don't think Kevin ever brought an Olympia-winning physique to a stage where he deserved to win the Olympia and was denied. His probably best Olympia performance was when he was, then was it 92 when he was second to Dorian that first time? He was wacky looking, right? It was either 92 or 93. I don't remember which one it was, but it was he was just mind-boggling. That's when he had really good legs too. I don't know what happened after that, but his legs were crazy, freaky big. And but I think that people have been politically screwed over the years. I think Bev was one of them. I think it was during a time where women's bodybuilding was still evolving, and Joe Weider just didn't want to have a certain look represent the sport. And I think that they gave it to Linda Murray at that point. And I think I don't think Linda Murray was not the Linda Murray she became, several years later. But I guess they saw potential in her, and that was what they wanted to go with. Unfortunately, we don't like those decisions because as bodybuilders, we want to think the best person should win, and I agree. I think Bev should have won that night, and I'm sure you probably would say the same thing. You were there. And it is what it is. And there's been other bad political decisions. I think that Dorian should never have won the 97 Mr. Olympia. I think Nasser should have won. I think Victor should have won the Olympia against Jay that one year. That they gave it to Jay, and Jay was off. So it happens. It happens, but I don't think that Levrone was victimized through his career at all. Like I said, if anything, I think he was judged very fairly.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That's the two. You asked me for two questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Like I said, if you guys want more of my opinions and crazy answers to questions, feel free to submit them on our Facebook, Instagram, and catch Ask Dave it's usually Wednesday or Thursday we put it up live. You can ask your questions and I might answer them on the air. If you want to ask me personal questions and you don't want to do coaching with me, you can always do my Dave Palumbo Experience app. You can submit free questions on there. It's $29 a month to be a subscriber. Like I said, I think you guys will enjoy that. Chris, obviously, we got stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. Big shows. You got the Arnold Brazil coming up this third week, in April. Do we have a lineup yet for that?
There's 8 people.
There is. Who's in it?
I don't know. I just know that I was told there were 8. No, there's 8. There's 8, which is like mind-numbing.
They got a lot of shows. There's a lot of shows, Chris. It's hard to get these people to. It's hard to get enough people in them. I guess that's the only thing I can think of, right? I mean, people don't want to keep competing.
Watch Weinberger's show is going to have like 800. I mean, not.
Yeah, New York Pro. People don't want to travel.
Yeah, it's easy to get to New York, and it's a big trip to go to Brazil.
I think that they only flew.
It blows my mind. I just know a lot of people doing like New York.
Right, but think about the Arnold. The Arnold people pay for you to come there, so they can't have a huge lineup. I guess it would be too expensive. That's the only thing I can think of. 8.
Yeah. 8. I mean, the first 2 call-outs, and the prejudgment's like 4 minutes.
Wasn't there 3 there last year? Something like that, 3 or 4, something like that.
I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, I just know like when you and I went down the year that like Kukla won. I mean, it was like deep. You know what I mean? It was like a lot of guys. The next year was deep. Even when Ramy beat Cedric.
Yeah, that was a good show. It was a really good show.
That was you had Juan in the show in great condition. That was like Juan's best, I thought.
Yeah, no, he looked
all-time best. Just weird that people aren't competing.
Trying to find the competitor list. I don't see it.
I mean, where is like Kuklo and Compton and Dallas and all the people.
I think Compton should have done this show. That would have been a good show for Compton.
Nathan. Daisha.
Yeah.
I get it confused because it used to be a different last name.
Yeah,
Rolly could have done that show and walked with it.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing it though, so I can't even comment. I'm looking.
How about the Kai Green lookalike?
William Bonac, yeah.
Dexter, there's still time for you to drop your salt for the one day and probably have a full enough look to win the Brazil, unless they banned him from the wins. They don't want him.
I don't think so. I'm sure they would love to have Cedric there. I don't, especially if that speech.
Dexter.
Oh, Dexter. Yeah,
Cedric not doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why. Cedric should have done all three of the Australias. I mean, all three of the Arnolds, the Australia and Brazil. I don't know why he didn't. He had to rest on his laurels.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal.
I mean, he would have destroyed Australia. I mean, come on. He would have killed Curry.
Not according to the Kuwaitis.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but we know there's no way Cedric was losing that one, and there's no way he probably would lose Brazil too. But maybe he felt it was too much for him. I don't know. It's too much mentally for Cedric. That's what it really is. Yeah. He wants to ride the gravy train now that he's got the Arnold victory.
Yeah, maybe he's worried he can't duplicate that speech.
Yeah, it could be. He figures, let me just call it quits. I'm on a high note right now. Probably better off. Probably good for him going into the Olympia to have that kind of momentum behind him.
Maybe
even though he doesn't believe in momentum.
Maybe he couldn't take us on Heavy Muscle Radio by you saying, I'll be you. Chris, I know Cedric, walked away with that show, but were you disappointed in the speech? And Cedric, we listen and say, are you kidding me? Palumbo's giving me a problem on the speech.
Oh, my God. Well, before we go, just remember my Uncle Mel quote of the week. What you know is boring. You have to do what you don't know. So go do something today you don't know about, and maybe it'll liven up your day. For now, we're out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.